So I'm reading this book, $1 Million Weekend, the surprisingly simple way to launch a 7-figure business in 48 hours. It's actually surprisingly complex, but this is a pretty good book if you're into this kind of thing. But if you refer to page 115, there is a challenge in here, and it says, write out your unique angle. And the first question, who are you? Close the book, set it down, and I thought about this question. And I thought about it a lot, and I realized that I don't know who the heck I am. And that's a bad thing. Or is it a bad thing? Let's talk about this, because this question, this single question, actually highlighted a very major issue that we have in society. And that issue, what I'm finding, is that we base our identities, we base who we are around specifically our job, our career, and what we do for work. And actually, it's a lot more than that. We're going to get into that in a second, but it's a lot of different things. And the reason I came to this realization is because I spent the first half of my life, the first 20 years of my life, working a 9-to-5 in the corporate world. And now that I've retired from the workforce and I no longer work in that career, I don't know who the heck I am because I was letting that job and that job title define me. That essentially became who I was. And it kind of makes sense because I worked in that career for half my life, so it would make sense that that would be a part of who I am, but we should not let that define us. But let's think about this. I mean, think about your own life, for example, and think about the question that you ask other people. Somebody new that you've never met before, what's the first question you ask them? For me, and for most of the people that I've run into, it is almost always, what do you do? What do you do for a living? What do you do for work? It is never, who are you as a person? It is never, who are you outside of work? What are your passions? What are your hobbies? What are your dreams? What are your goals? What's your ambition? It is never, who are you when nobody's around, when nobody's watching? It is almost always about work. And I think this really highlights a glaring issue that we have in society, and that is that society is set up in a way that is designed to keep us filling this role in society and never really step outside of that. If you think about this, our entire lives, it's set up that way. From the moment we're born, the questions we're asked when we're kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? And the answer is always about what you want to do for work. It is never about your dreams, your passions, the things that you want to go after in life that are actually meaningful to you. It is almost never that. It's always based around work. And also think about what your go-to is when you answer that question. When somebody else asks you, what do you do? Even if they don't say, what do you do for work? If they just say, what do you do? For me, it was always about work. I am a project manager. I do this, this, and this for my job. I never said, I do this, this, and this as my hobbies. Here are my dreams. It's never that. And again, this really highlights how we've been programmed, how we've been brainwashed. And it's set up to be that way, 100%. It's set up to keep us fulfilling that role in society and never really step outside of that. Everything that we're shown, everything that we're taught is based around that. But it doesn't stop with work, because we also conform to this idea and shape our identities around all these other things that we tell ourselves. Our beliefs, how we perceive ourselves, and even more importantly, and I would say even worse than that, is how others perceive us. We shape our identities around all those things. If you think about the things that we tell ourselves, it's things like, I'm an alcoholic, I'm sober, I'm a manager, I am a father, I'm stupid, I'm smart, I'm rich, I'm poor. All these things we tell ourselves, and we shape our identities around that, and that is very limiting. It essentially puts us in a box and holds us back from reaching our true potential. And that is what I'm finding to be true for myself, because now that I have removed myself from the workforce and I no longer have that to fall back on when I'm asked that question, who are you? I'm lost. I don't really have an answer to that question, but I would say that now that I've really taken some time to think about it, what I'm realizing is that I'm not that job. That job maybe was a part of who I am, but I'm finding that I am so much more than that. And I'm actually finding that I am multiple things all at the same time. And if you think about your own life, I would say that you are too. You are so much more than your job. You're so much more than what you tell yourself you are. And you're so much more than what people perceive you as. And I also believe now that not knowing who I am is an amazing thing, because it means I'm free to be whoever the heck I want. I can shape my identity and my life to be whatever I want to make it at this point. I am a person with so many different skills and passions, and I have so much to offer the world, so why should I limit myself? And that's a question I think we should all be asking ourselves is, why are we limiting ourselves? Why are we letting our careers and our jobs and all these things that we tell ourselves about ourselves define us? Why are we letting our beliefs define us? Why are we letting what other people think about us define us? And I would say that it's because we've fallen victim to the system. We have essentially been brainwashed into believing that our identity is based around our career. But what happens when that career goes away? What happens when you're in a position like I am and you're no longer tied to that job? Who are you then? Who are you actually? Who are you outside of all of these things? And if you're anything like me, you might have a very difficult time answering that question. And that's not to say that knowing who you are isn't a good thing and that we shouldn't have some sort of clear path laid out ahead of us. But at this point, I truly believe that allowing these things to define us is going to limit us. It's going to hold us back from reaching our true potential and becoming the person that we actually are deep down, and not the person that society has told us that we need to be. So to close out this exercise, I'm still not 100% sure how I'm going to answer this question, but I can guarantee that I'm going to need a lot more space than what they give you. And to answer the question of who are you, to write down all of that information and all the things that I am is probably going to be a book within itself. So again, think about this for your own life. Think about who you are as a person outside of work. And are you, like I was, allowing your job, allowing your career, and allowing all these other things, these external factors, define who you are? And take some time to yourself to really think deeply about that. Is that actually who you are? Or are you so much more than that?